Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Yoopers Unite meeting held at the Lovemark Church. My name is Tina Taylor, and I am one of the Yoopers Unite volunteers. I would like to let those of you online viewing know, as well as those in attendance, that tonight is going to be a little bit of a different meeting, and we are a little running behind. A large amount of our normal attendees are at the Marquette City Commission meeting or the County Commission meeting, and we are trying to maybe drag our feet just a little bit so they have an opportunity to speak at the public time, to speak at the meeting, and then get here. So we want them to have the opportunity to hear our special guest. We have this evening, I'm not going to say her last name right. Nadia, how do you say your last name? Oh, anybody? Can anybody tell me how to say Nadia's last name? Nadia. Pushkowskis. Nadia Pushkowskis. She is the person who is responsible for the longest running Ukraine awareness support march that happens weekly in the United States. She started it when the Ukraine was invaded, and it has been ongoing ever since. So she is here tonight to have a special presentation, and her father is with her, and we want everybody to be able to enjoy their presentation and learn from it. So because of the people we're waiting to get here from the commission meeting and all of those things, we are just going to proceed very slowly into our normal kind of first portion of the meeting. And I didn't want people to sit, be like, what's happening? Why isn't nobody talking? So bear with us. It's going to go a little bit long tonight. And while I'm here at the mic, I'm going to take the opportunity to say that I'm having my heart procedure tomorrow, so hopefully everything will just be good. It'll be outpatient. Everything will be fine. I'll be here next week. But on the off chance I'm not here next week, I will definitely be looking for somebody to provide snacks for next week. So if you are interested in volunteering to bring a snack or to handle the prep work for coffee and drinks, please let me know so that we can get that attended to. And with that, our lovely Paula Dietrich is waiting in the wings to be able to speak. So.
Hello everyone, Paula Dietrich, she, her. So while we're waiting, there's a couple things that, number one, the agendas are on the table and it's long. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. There's just lots of information. So what I'm going to do is go over a couple things. Maybe. Sorry, I just came in too. So where is it? One idea was that we have gotten is to have part of a meeting be one of the training videos for ICE and how to patrol. So if you think that's a good idea, let me know and we'll try and get that scheduled. I also, last week, even though I wasn't here, Lydia said showed me a sticky note for getting people to come in to talk about things that will be on the midterm ballot along with candidates. So I do know that Marquette Area Public Schools will have a school bond proposal on the ballot in May 5th. So I did reach out to Superintendent Sedgwick and spoke to him this morning. He is willing to come in, but he also shared some other things, so I said, well, let me start with this. So under the upcoming events, you will see that maybe not on yours, that under upcoming events, one-time events, on March 2nd, you can walk through Bothwell Middle School, where I taught for 22 of my years, to see exactly what that inside of that school is like and how it is not conducive for education. And then that would start at 3:30, and then there's a presentation at 5. There's another one the next night. That one will walk you through Marquette Senior High School to also point out some of the facility issues there, and the presentation again at 5. There are also, I was informed, there is going to be a mailer to all Marquette voters. Superintendent Sedgwick sent it to me via email. It's a 2-sided document. So I have a copy of that. He's going to give me some more copies, but they just approved this last night. So he doesn't even have them in his possession yet, but we'll have those available. He's also looking for people. There is an advocacy group, because he is limited, I didn't realize this, he is limited in what he can do to, I don't know what the word is, to promote a yes vote. So there is an advocacy group that is helping reach out. One of the places that they really would like to reach out is nursing homes, the veterans facility, because the company that put together the survey about is this proposal even going to pass, brought up the fact that if voters 65 and older will vote no more likely. So they are trying to get information to that. So if you're interested in that. And then he will come if we feel like we would like him to join us. I also got an update about Sheriff Zybert. Is Nina here? Yeah, I'm here. Okay, yeah. So Nina sent me a text today saying that Sheriff Zybert is going to be out on vacation for the next 2 weeks. He would come and speak to us, but there currently is, I don't know, I have my phone. Can I just read what you sent me? Okay, thank you. My phone's been kind of blowing up today. Yes. So I want to say it into the mic so that the online, he basically said in his voicemail that they are not actively seeking any undocumented people and that they are not currently housing undocumented people. But he is willing to come in and speak to us in the future. Also, I can have someone, Jen Hill happened to run into Jen Ray, and Jen Ray is willing to come and speak next week about the school bond. Let me see if there's anything else. Oh, one other quick thing while we're waiting. The Ontonaga County Democratic Party did a press release yesterday. We got this through the Yoopers Unite email. And it is a resolution condemning unconstitutional ICE activity and demanding withdrawal of federal agents. I do have a copy of that. I will probably add that to the notes for what's coming up. Last, another thing, just a reminder, the ballot proposals, they have extended for 2 months, so they need, if you signed early, August and September, on either of those ballots, you should re-sign. Finally, there's also half sheets on your table. And it is the top of the agenda. It is the original who we are and what we do, and a possible revision. We've been at this, we've been gathering for a year, as of February 11th. And lots of things have happened in that year, including a much bigger network across our UP, many grassroots, not just indivisible, but many groups that are meeting like we are. And so one of the thoughts after getting your input in November was to revise a little bit about what this meeting gathering really is. So if you wouldn't mind, I don't know exactly how many half sheets, but if you need some, we can get them. If you don't mind taking a little bit of time reading that and going, is that what you want from these Tuesday nights? Is that what is happening on Tuesday night? I'm going to tell you, these are my words, and I have a really tough skin. I taught middle school for 28 years. So don't worry, you're not going to offend me at all. It will help us know that we are doing what you want, because this is not about anyone in particular, even though I tend to stand up here. And there are some of us that are in the background kind of trying to get things in place, but it really is still a very organic gathering. And then I'm looking. I don't know timing other than Ruby is at the meeting and she said at 6:58 that they had just got through the public comment at the county commission. And that, yeah, that's the, I think, yeah. I don't know if she meant the first or second round. First? Oh, it's the first. So they may be a while. So I'm thinking, this is me thinking, which all of you know just means it's me throwing an idea out there. So should we have Nadia begin? Or do you feel like it would be better to have some updates from anyone in here that needs to give us some updates?
I think I would go for the update.
Okay.
Everyone would want to do Nadia.
Okay. Thank you for making a decision. Okay, so updates. No, but yeah, Cynthia. Okay, we're good. Cynthia, you got an update?
This is more of a request for help. We have posters for the March 2nd LSRI general meeting, and I need help distributing them in Marquette, Ishpeming, and Nagani. If anybody is available to help me do that, you can come and see me later. I knew Tori would help. Yep, great. Howdy, I'm just here to clarify real quick a Discord thing, because somebody in the Discord said, you know, they're going to be siphoning our info and giving it to ICE, and I've been following very closely with what's going on with Discord, so I can explain where that miscommunication came on, and for those of us in the Discord, what to expect going forward. In March, Discord is going to introduce age verification. They are going to request your government ID or photos of you. They claim they are not keeping this information for themselves. However, the loophole is the partner who checks to see your ID, to see that you have like an adult facial structure, they can hold on to that information for a little while. Discord did have a leak from a similar process happen in last October. However, you don't need to age verify to use the site. You will have a teen user experience. So, I mean, for what we do, it should be fine. I recommend never, ever giving your government ID to websites. Ever, 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 never. No matter how safe they say it is. So, just to explain the ICE connection real quick, what that is in the UK, they have the Online Safety Act or something like that, where they are making Discord age verify people, and their partner, Persona, they say it's going to be a different person, but some people have gotten screenshots of it being a group called Persona, has ties to, oh my gosh, what's its name? It's a funding group run by Peter Thiel, is the point. And he is sort of like the creepy mastermind behind a lot of the nonsense going on right now with ICE. So there's including, he's trying to fund at this time a app that keeps track of immigrants and letting ICE keep an eye on people's cell phones, whatever, it doesn't matter. The point is there is a connection between the ID verification site and Peter Thiel. So that's why people are worried. But again, as long as we're not uploading our IDs, please don't upload your ID. You should be safe. I just wanted to clarify that because I know some people were like freaked out by that. Oh, no, you're good. Was your,
People have often tried to text me their ID and their passport, and wouldn't that go the same way for not texting?
yeah, so Nadia just asked, she mentioned that people sometimes will take pictures of their ID and passport. Doesn't that have the same security risk? I'd say,
And text it to me.
and text it to her, so I'd say yes. If you can avoid it, don't do it. I know, Nadia, you're doing some important work, however, and
Right, sometimes we can't help it.
sometimes we can't help it.
Whatever, but
And it's
yeah.
very, I think it's a little different to text it to somebody versus giving it to Discord who is claiming to not store it but letting their partner store it. You shouldn't have to worry about that unless you get like subpoenaed for some reason. But again, I'm not an expert on the cellular side of things. Definitely something to look into. Nadia, what's up?
So sorry, everybody, but on the Google side of things, you know how Google just, on the Gmail side,
Yep.
instead of for Gmail, so should we not, do you think texting better than Gmail at this point?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
So there
texting's
you go.
better than Gmail. So that was another question, is texting better than Gmail? Yeah, Google, we love
Comment
it.
on that one.
Yeah.
Yes, please, Graham, take over.
As to whether texting is better than Google, I will say,
Right into the mic.
yeah,
Tilt it up.
Yeah, right, because then it's loud.
on the is texting better than Google. Google has been complying with subpoenas without informing people. So they have been giving information on your Google account, including email, docs, basically anything that you wouldn't show in a police precinct, don't put it on Google. Yay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you both. I don't know, anyone else? Sorry, is that right? I have, do we have updates on No Kings or planning or what the events are? Okay, thank you.
Well, No Kings is ready to roll. We're just waiting on a couple things, getting logos of partners that agree to want to be on our send out. Partners like Yoopers Unite, if you want to have your logo on the invitation for people to come, we need to know if you want your logo on. And any other partners that want to do that. And Mobilize is a couple days process. But I am hoping that within 2 days, maybe 2 days, that Mobilize will be able to have that, and then we can do a full blast of what's happening. I just have been reluctant to put anything on that may, I don't think the script is going to change anymore at this point. It's just, we're just waiting for partners and Mobilize. So, and I think you all know what it is. It's everybody's converging on Washington Street on Saturday the 28th and the time is 10:30 to 12:30. 10:30 to 12:30, that did change. 10:30 to 12:30, Washington Street. And we do have some
March 28th.
March. Thank you. March 28th, Saturday, March 28th. And we have a couple things that we need to do. That's busy work, but letters to businesses along the streets, letting them know what's happening and how we're going to respect their property and blah, blah. I need some volunteers that can hand out letters to the businesses along Washington Street. And we're kind of ready to roll. Yep. Thank you. Thank you, Bob. How many people lined Washington Street during the 4th of July? Do you have a number? 6,000. That was a lot of people. And I think we can do that and more. It's gonna be a busy street.
Are we closing the streets?
No,
So-
we're just on the sidewalks, just like all the people that come to the 4th of July, except it's gonna be a little compressed more because we're not allowed to go in certain directions. But it's gonna be a lot of people coming from everywhere in Marquette on foot because they have to park somewhere in costumes and placards and posters and banners and musical instruments coming from every direction, which will enhance the experience even more. So 6,000 people, I think we can bust that. What we had, the 4th of July was, or no? I think No Kings 2 was 5. It was 5. And so we're hoping to bust 5 for sure. And we know Marquette can do 6.
Do we know if Fulton's doing their own, no things, or should we try to get, like, the buffer number if they're not doing one in Fulton? Could we see about getting there?
I think it's,
Can you restate that into the mic for people?
I'm sorry, say,
Can you
oh,
restate that?
oh, is Houghton doing it? I don't know. And, yep, Nadia,
Yes, Houghton is.
Houghton is doing it.
Houghton is doing, we also started doing, car parades as well. You know, I mean, and I don't have my truck here as I did a year ago, but my truck still is all decal. And then we decided that some people that are elderly or can't walk or just want to be in their car because we've had some others join us in their cars. And we decided to have our cars join on these days as well. And it's been very successful. And we just have people park at the church, at the Unitarian congregation actually, or not the church, but the Unitarian Fellowship Hall. And we have window markers and right on the windows. And then people do put decals on their car if they want, but most people just write on the windows. We do have American flags as well. And we have trains that joy. And then we go up and down the street where the No King March is. And it has lessened some of the other traffic that sometimes is limited. So that's been very successful, and we're going to be doing that again, as well as a foot march as well. Sorry. Did everybody hear me or no?
Nadia.
The video people can't hear you.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Nadia, that is a wonderful idea. I love it. Say it again.
Yeah, so sorry, I forgot. Hello, video people. So, in Houghton, we have started doing car parades as well when we do events. And the reason we did that for the first hands-off, of course, we've had some others with their cars. And oftentimes, as we still do a march every week for Ukraine, and we haven't stopped, we'll have some trucks come by that are not as excited about Ukraine as some of the rest of us. So we have decided that we, for our No Kings Day, for our benefit democracy, for standing up for American values, we have added car parades, and it has worked very, very well. And we just have people that, and it also works for those of us that sometimes have elderly, like my father, who can't walk as far, or may have a health issue, or may have little children, right? And so we parked it at the Unitarian Fellowship Church, and then we have decorated the windows with car markers, window markers, paint markers. You can get them at the dollar store, but you can get them at Michael's. You have a Michael's, we do not. But you can paint with those on the windows. And we have done that in conjunction with our road, our walking, our standing, and they have driven back and forth, and it has lessened some of our fellow brothers and sisters, and it has promoted democracy and peace. So, yeah. Thank you. Okay, so yes, March 28th, we will have an event as well.
Great.
So, yeah.
What time is yours?
To be honest with you, I'm not going to be here. I will be in Florida's event because my father's turning 95. So I believe most of ours begin at 12, but I'll say tentatively 12 right now. We usually do ours from 12 to 2, but I'll verify that and send it to you.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Nadia.
because right now we're having our indivisible meeting as we speak. I'm here, they're there.
So yes, all right, thank you.
Lydia?
Okay, I know that the people on Washington Street, some of the business owners have been concerned about the loss of business for like the few hours of the protest. So I was thinking, I don't know if LSRI or maybe Yoopers Unite, maybe we could put out on social media before the event, like the couple weeks before, or I don't know, even buy a small ad in the paper, just something that says like, support local businesses, and like try to get people to drum up, or like all of us could go downtown and go shopping and buy like something really tiny and be like, oh, I'm here because like you're a small business and I want to make sure you're getting business before you lose money next Saturday for like 3 hours. You know what I mean? So like, people feel like we're compensating them, and we're also aware that the struggles that small businesses are happening. So
Oh, we got questions for you, Lily. Sit back there.
Is there gonna be, like, we're starting on this street, going to this street? Or,
We're,
Restate the question.
okay, where is the demonstration gonna happen exactly? The demonstration will be between the post office and going west, maybe as far as Lincoln Street or beyond. I don't know how, it's gonna expand as 6,000, 7,000 people make it happen. We're being asked not to spill up Third Street and on east towards downtown Washington. They're trying to keep us within the Washington corridor because of traffic problems. You know, people getting up to the rec show. We don't want to step on the rec show's toes. And but I picture it as being a lot of people walking back and forth and having fun and music, and people walking to Washington Street because you're going to have to park somewhere or walk from your home. This demonstration is going to be more than Washington just because of the amount of people arriving and leaving. It's going to extend it in a major way. You can't not see 6,000 people moving on the streets, walking with placards and music. So it's not a march. It's not a fill the streets kind of march. We have to have sidewalks, and the sidewalks need to have room for pedestrians to walk and do commerce with merchants. We can't block the sidewalks. We have to be, you know, we have to accommodate.
Keep moving.
We have to, yeah, and I think people will be just moving. If you remember No Kings, people were walking up and down and talking and chanting and saying their business of why they were there. And it's not going to be like just standing in place, really. I think people are going to be moving in a constant way. I think it's going to be organic in that aspect.
We already don't block the businesses here, so.
Yeah. So there will be a round table after, and if anybody wants to, like Bob wants to do businesses and talk to them, and we have a letter that we're going to be printing up. It's the repeat of the one that was from No Kings 2 that Tina had written. I'm just going to update it with the right dates and times and stuff on it, and we'll print it up and take blocks where someone has a block or 2 or 3 blocks if you want, but go to those businesses, hand them out. Maybe they'll put a No Kings poster in their window in support, and the letter encourages them to think about having a special of the day that all these people walking around might come in and participate in something within their business. So, Nadia. Mm-hmm.
In honor of Renee in Houghton, we did a memorial walk, and it was downtown.
And we specifically had people place different areas of downtown and then people walking. And because it was such a monumental moment for us, I brought 200 roses and passed them out. And I made sure we passed it out to each of the businesses as well. I just got a picture of one of the roses that's still alive. Can you imagine, we were in the snow for 8 hours and that rose is still alive. My rose made it until Alec Preddy was killed. But I say that because we also I wrote thank you cards to all of our businesses and gave it to our businesses as we were walking around and just said thank you for being part of our community. Thank you for praying with us. However you want to write it. We have a lot of people in the community that know that I'm part of the Catholic faith. They know that I'm part of the Faith United. So it was appropriate for me to say, please pray for us, with us. Please join us in mourning with those that I knew that weren't necessarily the same faith. But it really made a difference. And our community actually thanked me. And people came out and hugged me. And a store that I didn't necessarily think would, did. So I proposed that the next time we all bring $1 and have $1 to our favorite store, and that store can donate it to their charity. And if you have 6,000 people, that's $1, that's $6,000 in the community of Marquette, and maybe that will engage the community rather than have them upset about the situation. So, just being able to say thank you and passing out these things and saying just, even if it's all those thank yous, all those positive things make a difference because they are recognized as part of humanity, even if we may not get that right away. So that's my
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
We don't have 6,000 people, but we have 10 years, so that's a great thing. I think
Great
that would be
ideas.
wonderful, yeah.
Great ideas, yeah. No more comments? Yeah, okay, thank you.
Barb has been in contact with him.
So the question is, do we work with Captain Finkbinder? Absolutely. That has been since right away. And Barb is, anytime that there is an action of this sort, there was one spontaneous one recently, I don't know what it was. Barb was contacted and immediately contacted the police to say this is what we're doing, and they have been very, very supportive. They work with us, not against us, to make sure that we are safe and everyone is safe, because that's what their job is. Is there anything else? I'm looking. The only other thing that I saw as I had a chance to relook through the agenda was that this is the last week for the walks of solidarity along the lakeshore, because it's getting lighter later. And so those lanterns aren't showing up as much at that 6 o'clock. So Amber wanted us to know that. That's all I got. I will come and collect the little half sheets, or if you want, you can just leave those at your table. Maybe that would be better. You can leave them. Thank you. Yeah. The teacher and me wanting to collect, sorry.
Pass to the right.
Yeah. You don't have, I won't make sure your name's on them, don't worry. No names. Tammy, did you come from just from work, or did you come from the? Oh, okay. Well, welcome. And do we have, do we have any new people tonight? Yay! Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are happy to have you. So I don't know. What time is it?
7:37.
Those are the only updates I have that I know of. So unless there's anyone else. Oh. Right. Right. That is one of those things. so Cynthia just shared that there were people in the hallway, we had that positive problem. That there are that's what I call those. That we have a positive problem that there were that many people at that county commission meeting that I have a feeling if we wait, we're gonna be waiting here a really long time.
Yeah, can I make a comment about that?
Yeah.
Mike? So we had, as you know, in Houghton,
Yeah, go to the mic. And then Bob is gonna come up and, or Bob, do you want me to do that, or can you make it up? Okay, we'll give you time, he's recuperating.
So, as you know, we had in November a contentious county commission meeting in Houghton. In Houghton, we had a possibly contentious county commission meeting in Houghton where they were trying to rule on two sexes in our county. And we had, I can't tell you the numbers, but I was driving to Mayo and I finally was the very last person they called online, and it was 12:30 a.m. in the morning. I will tell you, we were very pleased. I mean, it did not pass, obviously. It probably would not have passed anyway, which is the wonderful thing about our county commissioners. They gave everybody a voice. So even though, that's why I said possibly, because if you knew the background of that, they let everybody in the community come and they gave everybody a voice, even those who traveled from far away, and even those who traveled from Marquette, Escanaba, and Iron Mountain, because we had several people come for that. And they could have, and maybe I would have, said, we're going to speak to locals only because we have over 500 people here tonight that everybody wants to make a comment, and we had people waiting outside. But they let every single person get their 2 minutes. And were gracious about it, and then did the vote, and then still had their meeting. And then at 12:30, I wrapped up with the thank you and my comment about our hospital, which is another issue that has nothing to do with y'all. So, so I'm just putting that out there. If this is a county commission that may be people wanting to have their voice heard, it may go very long. I don't absolutely mind staying here till midnight, so I can do it again if people come, but I don't think everybody else here wants to wait. So, yeah, that's my vote.
Bob, yeah, and that Bob, my Ingrid, you're a little.
Well, I just had hip replacement a week ago at Mayo's.
Oh, yeah. Awesome, bring it on. Oh, we're not in there. No, we're together.
I can walk.
It's good to see you out here walking.
Not so great.
I know, that's beautiful.
Well, look, I wanted to invite all of you to attend this Saturday's fundraiser event, meet and greet for Kelly Vangenhoven. Now, Kelly is an exciting, fiery part of our resistance, and she's the only Democrat elected to the Delta County Board of Commissioners. So you think about our Board of Commissioners, we have 5 Democrats. But there, they have 1 Democrat, and that's Kelly, and she's having an event this Saturday because she is going to be the next state senator from the Upper Peninsula. Now, she's been to Indivisible meeting, I think 1, and Nina Vanden Ende, say hello, and then my wife Valentina are hosts, so we wanted to pass these out to all of you. It does cost a little bit of money to come. We're asking you to donate $50, but if you can't do that, come anyway. And I wanted to tell you the extra exciting part is Dave Horn, who comes to these meetings quite a bit. He is going to be playing the guitar. Now, do you all know Dave Horn? He's a Lutheran pastor who comes to these meetings once in a while, kind of tall guy.
I think he's only come once. He came and introduced himself.
Okay,
I do know that.
so guess what song he's an excellent singer, by the way. He's singing The Streets of Minnesota by Bruce Springsteen and some other protest songs. So this is going to be really good. But the important thing about Kelly is she has a darn chance of winning because she is such an exciting young woman who stands up to MAGA, and she's charming. So if she can charm MAGA Republicans, she won a Republican district, 55% to 45%. She flipped a Republican district in the county of Delta. At the same time, Guess what Trump got in the same district in Escanaba? He got 55%. So Kelly gets Republicans and independents to switch over and vote for her. How about that? So we need people like that if we're ever going to be ultimately super effective with our resistance, because the most important, most effective way to resist is to remove the people we are resisting from office. Yes, Faith.
Have you heard today that McBroom and Bowen are splitting from Jack?
Yeah, and marketing.
What's happening?
Tori's got it. I got it. Tori's got it.
Listen, I grew up watching reality TV. I want to talk about this. So Jack Berg, I need the names. Hold on, actually, I need to get the names, but 'cause I don't want to get them wrong.
Right.
So our beautiful fellow Jack Bergman decided to separate himself from, or Bonac and McBroom are separating from Jack Bergman because Bergman endorsed a different candidate. He endorsed Bo Lefave, whatever. I don't like him. But Jack Bergman was like, let's do this guy. With the Bonac and McBroom were saying, he's not good for the UP. We want, how did you say it?
No, and marketing it broke away too. All
Yes,
of them.
and Markkinen did too. And they want to endorse Preston. So they're having this little infighting. So that happens, and then, oh my goodness. I'm so sorry, I should have. In an interview.
Is there an issue that made him leave?
It looks, honest to God, it kind of just looks like petty infighting because there's like, Lefebvre used to be Max. Paula, come on up. I'm sorry. I knew the juicy stuff. I don't know how to say these people's names.
So basically what happened is McBroom came out and said that he made a statement that Bergman blatantly lied to him. Part of me is like, well, yeah, because that's what MAGA does until, they stab you in the back when they need to. And so supposedly Bergman had told McBroom and everyone else that he was, he put his foot in here and said, I'm going to go with Lefebvre, even though everyone else was going with Preston. And so he endorsed Bo Lefebvre instead of just in having these internal conversations which were happening. And so now our UP legislators.
And Dave Preston has been accused of domestic violence.
Yeah, and Dave Preston, well, was he accused or was he actually?
His wife, I think, or ex.
Yeah, so Dave Preston has a criminal history or alleged criminal history of domestic violence. And so anyway, there's all of that going on, but they're fractured. The GOP is fractured right now, which to me brings daylight. Yeah, good. Yes, so that, yes. Basically, McBroom is now calling out Bergman for what we have been calling him out for. Right. So we are agreeing with McBroom. So the Kelly event is also on the agenda, but I think it is probably time for Nadia. Oh,
I'm done.
yeah.
Oh, the time is 4 p.m. To 6 p.m. at the Federated Women's Clubhouse on West Washington, which is right across from our big library, across from Front
Yep.
Street and West Ridge. Yep.
Yeah, and it's on the agenda on, I did add it this morning, so.
McBroom seat is a historically held by Democrats, so it's definitely attainable.
Yes. Well, we were UP used to be blue. Let's go blue again. All right, so I think it's time for Nadia, unless there's anything else burning. All right.
Pozdravляю, Nadia.
Hi, everyone. Hello, everyone. I am Nadia Pekauskas, and I am co-founder of Yoopers for Ukraine. I know many of you have seen me before. Some of you are new to me, and I am very honored to be here tonight to speak to you about Ukraine. And so you'll see that I brought a great deal of items with me. I would like everybody to know that every piece of art here is from Ukraine, made in Ukraine, during these last 4 years of the full-scale invasion. We recently opened a Ukrainian Culture Center in Houghton, so this is why we have all these art, and I have much more, and we need a bigger boat, and we're looking at different buildings today, because it's a wonderful thing to be able to support artists, but it's also given me people right on the ground, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, but as I speak, just pay attention to the things around, the culture that we're trying to protect. That's why I brought all of this. You know, it's not an easy task to fill a car full of art and make sure all of it survives and make sure that it's given the respect that it's given. On your chairs and tables, you'll see pictures. If it's not of my father or myself or people in this room who have marched with us, all the children are in Ukraine. All the events that are on those pictures are in Ukraine. Some are very happy and some are not. And so last night, my father and I were given the privilege of speaking at the Nagani Public Library. And last night, I had children in the audience. And last night, I was able to just speak about Ukrainian culture, why it matters, and what art does during conflict, the beauty of sustaining humanity through art. So that was beautiful. Tonight is going to be a little different conversation. So I think it's important that we're real with what's happening. So tonight's conversation is not meant to upset anyone, but it will be upsetting. It's 4 years of a full-scale invasion. It is impossible not to be upset about this. And at this point, we should all be very, very upset. In that 4 years, I really haven't spoken about things that are upsetting. I don't like to speak about them. If anybody knows me, I always try to put a very positive, optimistic view, and I, like the Ukrainians, still believe that we will win. We are determined to have victory, and Ukraine has had victory. 4 years later, Ukraine is still standing. 4 years later, against the country in black is Russia. The country in orange is Ukraine. Make no mistake, this is victory. So let's hear it for Ukraine. Slava Ukraina! It's very important we don't change the narrative, and it's very important we absolutely understand the truth of what's happening. Before I get into too much, I would like to honor my other co-founder who is here and who was recently honored by Senator Peters. So I'm going to read Senator Peters' accolade before I introduce my beloved father, and I'll have him stand for that. Papa, stand up, honey. This is my beautiful father, Vytautas Pekauskas, 94 years old. In October of this year, Senator Peters presented my father with a medal and presented him with these words and read them. I won't read them as Senator Peters does, but I will read them to you because it defines who he is and why we're doing this. Plus, it's a little shout out from Senator Peters' daughter. Dear Mr. Pekauskas, I am honored to recognize you today for your steadfast advocacy on behalf of Ukraine. Your life has been defined by courage and compassion. Take Chuck. Come here, Papa. Come here. Come stand here, sweetheart. My beautiful father. Now I don't know if I can read this. Your life has been defined by courage and compassion. Even as a child, you risked your own safety to aid the Nazi resistance and bring food to those starving in the Vilnius ghetto, before eventually having to flee your home and being sent to a labor camp. Still, you continued to fight to defend freedom. After being liberated, joining the United States Air Force and serving in post-World War II Germany, where just 5 years prior you were enslaved. Your lifelong dedication to protecting human rights is honorable and has not gone unnoticed. Your recent work over the last 3.5, now 4 years, fighting for the people of Ukraine is just another example of the exceptional life you have lived. You have traveled far and wide, speaking to students, policymakers, veterans, and more about the war in Ukraine and the need for U.S. assistance. Your participation in over 222 marches, 50 speeches, and 100 special events, 101, over the last 3.5 years is highly admirable for anybody, let alone someone who is 94 years old. Through your efforts, you have planted seeds of hope into the thousands who have heard your story. And I thank you for your advocacy on this important topic. Once again, I am grateful for the opportunity to recognize you and your dedicated efforts to stand up for the Ukrainian people. Thank you for your lifelong advocacy, and I look forward to continuing to stand up for the people of Ukraine alongside you. Sincerely, Gary Peters, United States Senator. And he got a medal too, is what he just told me. And yes, he did, and he'll be happy to show you that after. All right, here you go, Papa. Thank you. Thank you for giving me that moment to honor him. Okay. I honor all of you who are in here because we are all advocates. Every time we stand up, every time we say hello, every time we do anything with honor, we are standing up for humanity. And when we stand up for humanity, the world wins. And when the world wins, Ukraine wins. We started Yoopers for Ukraine 4 years ago. And we started it because my father, that you just met, lived through, as you heard from Senator Peters, World War II. He left Lithuania as a young boy, and he thought he was going to return home immediately. So he left his coin collection in his drawers, he left his fishing supplies on his dresser in the corner, and he really thought they would be back the next weekend. Like many, many people in February of 2022, when Russia embarked on its full-scale invasion into Ukraine, and families fled, and people tried to get to the border, and children thought they'd be back, and parents thought they'd be back. It took us 51 years for my father to go home, but we did get back. And in that time, Lithuania was under Soviet occupation. So beyond the fact that my family was rounded up by the Gestapo, put in concentration camp and then slave labor camp, and spent their time in slave labor camp during World War II, and beyond the fact that my father was fed for 2 years after being liberated by the United States and arrived in the United States at 17 at 70 pounds after being fed for 2 years. So just imagine. And beyond the fact that my father, then at 19 years old, joined the U.S. Air Force to go to Korea to fight the Bolsheviks, like all good Lithuanians and Estonians and Latvians and anybody who lived through the war wanted to do. And then the U.S. Air Force, in their wisdom, because my father didn't speak English but spoke perfect German, put on a U.S. Air Force uniform on my father and sent him back to Germany and had him become a peacemaker and to teach the Germans how to be a democratic nation just 5 years before in a camp by the Germans. Beyond the fact that that man has never had a bitter bone in his body, and he never allowed his children to see anything but the good in people. And he enjoyed his time in Germany, and he enjoyed showing them a different view. Beyond all of that, when Ukraine had all the tanks lined up, and my father, who lived through World War II, and my aunt, and our colleagues, and our friends, and all the Ukrainians at the diaspora who had lived through World War II, watched those tanks about to invade their country, and started crying again, and having nightmares again, and reliving something from 80 years ago. My father didn't say, let's not do anything. My father said, at 91, we have to stop this. So I'm practical, I think, and I said, yes, we're going to go to Chicago, where all the good Lithuanians and Ukrainians are, and we're going to be with our people, and we're going to rally at that march, and you'll feel better. And my dad, also practical, he said, are you crazy? It's February in the UP. We're not driving to Chicago. I said, no, we can. We'll stop at Green Bay, get you a good breakfast. We'll be there by 2 o'clock. It'll be perfect. And he said, no, let's do something here. Well, I've done all the marches, the women's marches, the Black Lives Matter marches, all of them. But I never led a march myself. And it's February in the UP. And we don't have places you can buy Ukrainian flags, and we don't have a Michaels in Houghton. And so, I was like, okay, Papa, let me just think how to do this. And I called the police. Because you should always call the police before you do anything. There's a march or a demonstration or a rally. And I asked Lieutenant Roberts, and he said, all you have to do, Nadia, is tell us when it is, and just do your march. I said, what? That's so easy. And he said, of course, you have that right. We still have that right. Remember that. Right now, we still have that right. So I chose 3 p.m. on a Sunday, and I went to the Walmart, and I bought out all the blue and yellow material with flowers, with plaid, with checkers, and I put on the Buy Nothing page on Facebook. I have material. I need flags. I want 100 flags by tomorrow. Can someone sew? I'll drop you off material. And I did. I dropped off all the material. And then I drove to Marquette at 2 o'clock in the morning, because your Walmart stays open. Ours does not. And I bought all the blue and yellow material that your Walmart had. And I drove back to Houghton. And still, and I bet tonight if we drove home, my father would say, as I stopped by to kiss my husband every time we go home, oh, are we visiting that very nice lady who was sewing for us? Every time we come home in the dark, he still thinks we're going to visit that lady that we stopped at 4 o'clock in the morning to give her material. I had 100 flags on that first march. And people still have those flags. And we had a wonderful march. And the first person that my father met was Zhenya, a 25-year-old Russian Fulbright scholar who had been out all morning. It was negative 17-degree wind chill that day, with a cardboard sign that said, Putin, get out of Ukraine. And I thought, my goodness, in 80 years, the first person my father sees and speaks to is a Russian. And Zhenya said, I can't stay, Nadia, I'm sorry, my hands are frozen. And I said, oh, no, I have magic. And he said, what magic? And I had hand warmers, and I brought them for everybody because it's negative 17 degrees. And he put them in, and he said, oh, I will stay. And I said, perfect. And he walked that bridge 3 times with my dad. What a monumental moment in history, right? Which is what we do every time we stand up for good, we are making history. But to have a young man who fled his country and who had his country occupied by the Soviet Union, by Russians, to then be walking across a bridge with a Russian for Ukraine that was now being invaded by Russia. It was a universal moment that we needed to pay attention to. And it warmed my heart, and it gave me hope, And I thought I was done, because we had a great march, and I thought, whew, I did it. And then that night, because it's Ash Wednesday tomorrow, just like it was Ash Wednesday 4 years ago, a neighbor called me, and she said, Nadia, you don't know me, but Pope Francis said we should all pray, fast, and work for Ukraine. And so I thought, since you did such a great march, we could do another one on Ash Wednesday. And I said, well, I mean, I kind of really thought we were just like, one. I mean, we did it. We told everybody this is what it is. And she said, Nadia, I'm not even Catholic. Can we do something? And I thought, well, if a non-Catholic calls a Catholic to do something on Ash Wednesday, I probably should pay attention. So we went to, and actually during that march, Jenny invited me to go to Michigan Tech in a blizzard. They were standing out at noon. And my husband also said, listen, you were up all night. You made all these flags. You don't have to do this. And I was like, yeah, but the students asked me to go, and they're standing out there in the snow. And that's when Yoopers for Ukraine became an entity, that Monday. And we have marched every single week for the last 4 years. And we are one of the only groups in the United States who has never missed a march, even though we've had them in negative 17-degree weather, in blizzards. We've postponed one because of lightning, but we still had it that week. So that man's watched every single one of them. And now he's 94 and going to be 95 in March. I start by telling you that story because we're 4 years in. And like many of us, when we were watching the news, I really did not believe that Kyiv was going to stand. I thought it would be done. I didn't think anybody would come to the support. So even though the support hasn't been what we wanted, Ukraine is still standing. And we must recognize that. And that's why I asked you guys to clap and give credit to the defenders of Ukraine, those who have fought resiliently every single day for Ukraine. Because we're nothing compared to what Ukraine is facing every single day. But at the same time, we're everything, because we're giving hope to people who are withstanding a monster every single night. This was last night in Ukraine. These are the Shahed missiles, the drones, and you get this on your phone now, so you can pay attention to what's coming to your house. This was last night. This is every night. I have all these artists, and I now have a memorial wall. Before I even opened my center, I had a memorial wall for artists that died before their paintings came to me. We've lost children, we've lost friends, we've lost family, but Ukraine is still standing. But this is why we all need to do more. And this is why I'm so grateful that you've invited me tonight. I would love to share all the good stories, but like I said, tonight isn't necessarily a good story. It is a good story in the sense that 4 years, we're still standing. In 4 years, many things have happened. In 4 years, we've gone to DC now 9 times for the summit, and the summit has become the American Coalition for Ukraine. And Sharon and Amanda went with us this last time. And we are the only coalition in the United States that has every single state represented. We have 600 delegates, and in 2 days we go to every single representative on the Hill with the same exact message, and every single senator and every single congressman gets spoken to about Ukraine with the same message. That has never happened with any other event in the United States. So that's powerful. It's extremely powerful. And powerful things have come out of it. So even though this year has been difficult to say the least, we have people working in the background. And we still have senators and congressmen that are still working around the clock. And so our biggest advocacy is to call them. I have on those tables the bills that are in the House right now and the Senate that we really want you to pay attention to. And those are the sanctions against Russia. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the difference between the 2 bills that we have out. There are still people pushing for that, even though I stepped out, as you saw me right before this, because I got an alert. Breaking news, President Trump has again said that Putin is ready for peace, but Zelensky is not playing ball. We want to work with this administration, but to even suggest that someone that was invaded, someone who has lost children and family members, and someone who has to endure this every night is not interested in playing ball is incredible. Ukraine is simply defending its home. And I have people come up to me quite often and say, Nadia, when are you going to stop this? We have done this every day from the beginning of the morning till the very end at night. We have worked for Ukraine for 4 years, every moment. There's not anything we do that doesn't have Ukraine involved in it, because I can't do anything more. All I can do is educate others, and I can beg others, and I can try to get our legislator to understand what's happening, and I can make sure that people don't change the narrative, and that when people don't tell the truth, they get called out on it. This war is not Ukraine's war. This war is an invasion, an illegal invasion of a sovereign, independent country, and it deserves the right to live. And that is the only narrative, and it hasn't changed for 4 years, and the only way peace will happen in Ukraine, and the easiest way, is if Putin just leaves. That's it. Our agenda has never changed, and the narrative should not change. And that's the most important thing that we can do, is to fight the fact that somehow the powers that are in the administration right now have decided that if they say it enough, people will believe, and unfortunately people have, that Ukraine is the one that doesn't want peace, and they keep attacking Russia for no reason. And they're, good gosh, defending their home for no reason. And they don't want their 20,000 kids back. Because why would you want your kids that were kidnapped back? Why would you cause a fuss about that? When people ask me, and I started that conversation with that question, when people ask me, why, Nadia, are you still doing this? I always say to them, how long would you fight for your family? How long? If your child was kidnapped, how long would you search for your child? If your grandchild was missing, or worse yet, if you knew where your grandchild was but you couldn't get to him, how long would you fight for your children? I posed that question to our congressman, and admittedly, with tears in his eyes, he said, I wouldn't stop. And I said, you're right, damn right you wouldn't. Excuse my language. You wouldn't stop. And that is the truth. That is the only truth that matters. If you have someone attacking your home, and if you have people that have taken your loved ones, and if you have especially people that have stolen your children, you would not stop. And that is why Ukraine will not stop until those children are returned, and until this doesn't happen every single night. In preparation for this talk, I pulled up the first talk we gave March 6th at the library at MTU. And I pulled up the slides just to see what we said at that first talk. And that first talk was called Why Ukraine Matters. Because at that point, again, look how far we've come. Most people didn't even know where Ukraine was. Most people had no idea that blue and yellow, thank goodness, it's an easy, beautiful flag. Now it flies so wonderfully, and whoever lives really close to here and has the blue and yellow flag out on their home, thank you, Bob. It warms my heart, and it warms Ukrainians who see it. That blue and yellow flag means something. And as a Lithuanian who lived had family that lived under occupation, I understand the significance of being able to fly your flag freely. And even more importantly, the significance of seeing others fly your flag. It was a crime in occupied territories in Ukraine to have any blue and yellow on. It is a punishable crime of imprisonment or disappearing to speak Ukrainian in any occupied territory. When Stefania won in Eurovision, it's a cool song. teenage girls were singing it, and they disappeared in Crimea. Just singing it at a bus stop, they disappeared, singing a song. You cannot speak Ukrainian, you cannot sing the anthem, you cannot have anything on your phone. We spoke a little bit earlier today about what's happening here in our country. You can't have anything on your phone that supports Ukraine. You can still have your phone in occupied territories, but it's used against you. Children are tortured, worse taken, worse disappeared. The truth is what I want to talk about a little bit tonight. The truth is that we do have 20,000 children missing, and the number is probably 260,000 children that have been kidnapped from Ukraine. That's a verified number. We speak about the 20,000 because that is the actual number that Yale acknowledged and recorded and knew. And the confusion here can be, even for me, I was like, I need to speak better about this because I realized people didn't understand it just recently. When Ukraine was invaded and Russia crossed those lines and went into Mariupol and other places and took territories, the first thing they did was empty out kindergartens, hospitals, and schools. And they took all those children. And that's what we're talking about when we talk about the missing children. Those original, first, early, advancements that Russia made and took over those territories. And now they're called occupied territories. But the first thing Russia did was clean out schools, hospitals, soccer fields, other areas. Those kids never came home. Parents went to the grocery store and their children were gone when they came back from the grocery store. These kids were taken into Russia. These are the 20,000 that were these are hostages. Talk about hostages. These are hostages for 4 years now. We know where they are. That's the awful thing. Russia knows where every single one of these kids are. Russia has websites with their faces on them, with their body types, with whether or not they're compliant or not. If you're adopting a child, would you want to know if they were compliant? Those are the kids that are adopted. Kids have been put into military camps. Kids have been tortured. In every occupied territory that has been freed, there are torture chambers for children. Every single one that has been reclaimed, there have been torture chambers for children. If we're doing this to the least of these, what are we doing to the rest? And what kind of military information can you garner from a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old? That's the 20,000. Now, since then, more territory has been taken. Occupied territory has grown. They no longer send the kids to Russia because they don't have to clean them out. Now they have military camps in those occupied territories. So the kids don't go to school. It's illegal to go to Ukrainian school, but kids do it online, and parents teach their children Ukrainian at risk of death. So understand how important that is to people. At risk of death, they are teaching their children online Ukrainian history and Ukrainian language. And teenagers are learning it. On my own personal story, when my father went back after we gained independence, my cousin Gidra, she's beautiful, and she was telling us that during occupation, Gidra is, I think, a couple, 6 years older than I am. So she's in her 60s now. And when we were sitting around the table, she was telling us that she came home one day and asked her mother why they never sang the Lithuanian anthem. And she started singing it because she had learned it in high school with a group of friends. And her mother beat her so that she couldn't walk. And I looked at my bunga and I said, how could you do that to your own child? And she said, Nadia, if I did not beat my daughter, they would have killed her. because it was illegal to sing the Lithuanian anthem, because it was illegal to speak Lithuanian, because at risk of death, parents are still teaching their children Ukrainian, and teenagers who are teenagers are still learning Ukrainian songs in occupied territory. These are the kids we're wanting to get back. This is why it's important when we talk about territory, it's people. And when we talk about territory, we're talking about children. And we want those children to have a life that's not under somebody's thumb. And worse, in Crimea, those kids, because it's 11 years, kids grow. Now they're conscription age. The new ambassador to Ukraine said, "What will we do?" And it's happened. When we meet our kids on the battlefield. Because that is happening. Ukrainians have laid down their arms for the African athletes, the so many African athletes, and others who have been lured into Russia for track meets and basketball games, and then they are given weapons and they're sent to the front line of Ukraine. Ukraine has rescued 656 athletes. So if you're talking about athletes, think about normal people. Russia is not playing normal. They're not following the Geneva Convention. They are not playing by the rules. And Mr. President, they do not want peace. So, what can we do as Americans? What can we do to help these people who deserve to live? There's so much we can do. So I know that I'm speaking very sad, and I don't like doing that because I want to be hopeful, but I also want you to understand the gravity of the situation, because we can't just say, I stand with Ukraine. It's a beautiful thing to have a flag in your home, and it is. I'm not denying that, and it gives hope. And yesterday I sent, for the first time I was able to send things to Ukraine, and I sent $400 worth of Valentine's candy, where I could have sent clothes and warms, and all those kids in kindergarten danced and sent me videos, and the teacher sent me a letter, and she said, Nadia, this was the best day these kids have had in 4 years. So sometimes you just have to have fun, and you just have to give hope, and you just have to tell people you remember them. But at the same time, we have to work. And the work for Americans is to talk to their legislators, to talk to our congressmen and senators who are still working for the people. Believe it or not, they still work for us. And while they still work for us, we still need to use them, particularly our senators. We know who we have here. And I will tell you, every time I've gone to DC, Bergman has given me over an hour time. He's the only representative who always meets with me. We never have to beg. He always makes time. Last time we were there, he came in from out of town. They called and they said, Nadia's here, and he dropped everything and came in and gave us over an hour time and let me meet with the defenders. So I have to give credit for that. Prior to our new administration, Bergman was very supportive of Ukraine and voted for all the supplementals and did extra for Ukraine until, of course, Mike Johnson became the Speaker of the House, and then all of his support ended. My father and I just came back from Harvard 2 weekends ago. We went for a conference on solidarity, because part of advocating for Ukraine and part of your jobs, and that's why I'm so glad you're here tonight, is to learn everything you can about what's happening with Ukraine so that you can speak intelligently and honestly. And I really did want to start this by putting my hand on a Bible and saying everything I say, I promise, is true. Because it is true, and the way we can advocate is to speak the truth and learn the truth. So at Harvard we had Maxim Budovich. He was a Russian prisoner, Ukrainian, that was put in a Russian prison, released and came and spoke. And then we had 4 other panels that were the best panels in 4 years that I've ever been witness to. It was a wonderful event, and it was called Solidarity, and Solidarity Today and Beyond. I'm bringing this up because at Harvard, we learned about what happens in Russian prisons, which of course we knew. I will tell you, the first year when I went to Bergman and I told him they are skinning POWs alive on Russian state TV, I really thought that's when the United States would say, okay, now we're going to stand up because we all love veterans and we all know that that's not okay. And they started castrating them alive on state TV, and I really thought that was going to get everybody's goat, and that didn't. And that is still happening. And that is definitely against the Geneva Convention, just in case you're wondering. And Mr. President, again, that does not bode well for someone who's wanting to follow the rules and end this engagement. But when we spoke about solidarity and what we can do, there was hope even in the Russian prisoners of war. I'm trying to get Maxime up here, and if I do, he will come speak to you. Maxime was a HR trainer and went to prisons and schools before the war and spoke against hate speech. So they couldn't have imprisoned a better human being. Like many Ukrainians, because it's an all-volunteer army, mostly, he was not a soldier. There were false charges put on him. He went to a mock trial. Russia put him in jail for 15 years. He was electrocuted. He was belittled. He was tortured. And a Moscow lawyer got him out. And he survived because he said, I couldn't speak to people, but I could remember all of my loved ones. And I could remember the faces of people I had met. And I held them in my heart. So just remember that too. Right? Because we may need that. But remember all the faces here tonight, all those who stood beside you in solidarity. One of the people in the audience asked Maxime one of the, I think, the most poignant questions of the entire weekend. She said, I know you very briefly said that you were a man of faith, but I was at your seminar, and he said, I remember 2016. Can you imagine? He remembered a HR 2016. He said, I remember you sat in the front row. And she said, I did. I hung on every word about how you said hate speech doesn't do anybody any good. And hating your brother doesn't solve anything. She said, but I want to know honestly from you. Do you hate your Russian captors? Did you hate them when they were torturing you? Did you hate them when they were putting false charges against you? And did they forgive you? Did you forgive them? Can you forgive them? How will you forgive them? Maxime is a very compassionate person. And his eyes were sparkling, and he was silent for a minute, and he said, this is a very difficult question that you have asked me, but I will be as honest as I can. I can honestly tell you, when they were torturing me, and when they were giving me false accusations and making me sign false papers, and when I said, you know this is ridiculous, and they said, we have a job to do, I did not hate them, because I know they were created for something more. I knew this was a moment in their life, and this was not why they were put on this earth. This was a moment, and human beings shouldn't be hated for a moment. She said, now, as far as forgiveness, I will not forgive them until they're accountable. I can see they were created for more, but they still need to be accountable for what they did, because they knew what they were doing. And then I can forgive them, which I think is powerful words for us to go forward. So before I get too deep into other stories and I want to get questions on that, I just want to talk about the two bills that I've asked you guys to look at. And I want to talk a little bit about the differences, and I do have some paperwork over there as well for those differences. And you can find all this on our Yoopers for Ukraine page. And you can see the whole talk from yesterday, which I really, like I said, it was a very engaging talk, and I enjoyed the camaraderie with the children. So it's a lovely talk. I would highly recommend you listening to that talk. It's a different Nadia. The kinder, gentler Nadia. I will just, before I move forward, the one slide that I started with 4 years ago, and we've all seen this meme, I'm sure, but 4 years ago I started with this slide, the 5 horses of apocalypse, right? We all know about the 4. And the biggest weapon we have is truth. That was Admiral Stavridis, who's still fighting for Ukraine. But as these horses were riding, they look at the 5th horse and say, and you are, and the 5th horse says, misinformation. 4 years ago, I knew this is what we'd be battling. And it pains me 4 years later to still be battling misinformation and having an administration try to change the narrative. And me looking at Bergman and looking him right in the eye and saying, with tears pouring down my face, and I've never done that with Bergman because I was just angry, not sad. I said, how can you now support Putin? Tell me, as a general, as a retired general who you yourself know how evil and how treacherous and how malicious and how manipulative Russia has been, how can you now say he is our friend? And he looked me in the eye and he said, well, Nadia, he's not on my Christmas list. I said, yes, but I want him on your naughty list. And you know you should be speaking out against it. At this conference, we had General Kellogg's daughter there. Again, it was a very, very powerful conference this last week. And we were able to ask very candid questions. And she's very MAGA, and she's very supportive of the administration. And I've had the opportunity to speak to members of the administration. And we were invited to the inauguration. And we were invited other places. And we did not go because I didn't want to give credit to someone who didn't deserve that credit. But I might go now just because we need to do everything we can. But her words were, the only way that you'll get people to support Ukraine, as I tried to get Bergman to now, is to remind them, Nadia, not that Ukraine is important, but that Russia is bad. And she was very earnest in her conversations, and she's a very good woman. She brings back the remains of bodies of American soldiers, veterans who have fought in Ukraine. We've lost over 100 former veterans who have gone on the front line. I'm wearing Andrew Weber's commemorative bracelet that his mother gave me. He's a West Point graduate, and he died with his West Point graduate friend on the front line in Ukraine because he believed so strongly in American values that many of our veterans have gone to stand with our ally Ukraine. So I give credit to Megan for that because it's a hard job, and she finds the remains, and she honors them, and she fights for them in administration. But her words were, we that have been working for 4 years, and Ukrainians that were in the audience, and everybody else who's been working for this war and working against misinformation, now have to convince our Republicans that Russia is bad. We have to remind them how evil Russia is, that they're not our friend, that this was the advice we have now. And this is really our duty, and this is what we were told, and I will do anything. So, okay, I'm on board, but I had to remind her that the only reason that Republicans now think Russia is good is because there's a man in the White House telling them that he is. And that is the truth. We are doing business with Russia. Ubiquity is a technical company. I have all the pages over there if anybody wants to read it, that is selling parts, California, United States, to Russian drones to kill people in Ukraine. We, who are calling for Russian sanctions, are letting our businesses make money killing Ukrainians. These are the things we now have to speak very, very plainly about. And tonight, when President Trump gave his press conference, we are still very, very willing to work with this administration, but we really, really have to remind them of the truth, that Russia is not our ally, never has been, Ukraine is our ally, and that Russia has no interest in supporting America. Still, on state TV, Russia calls the West Satan. The West is us, by the way. In case anybody's confused, that's the USA, not our friends. We have to remind our Republican brothers and sisters and our Democratic brothers and sisters that Russia is not our friend, and that American businesses are not supposed to be doing business with Russia. So, with that note, I will tell you the three things that we're doing right now that are very important. There's a shadow fleet bill that passed the committee. The shadow fleet sanctions bill, it's over there. The brief comes rule out for you. It just passed Foreign Relations Committee. It is Senate Bill 2904. And its key provisions are the Shadow Fleet Sanctions Act cuts Russia's illicit oil revenues, it cracks down on Moscow's evasion of U.S. sanctions, and helps end Russia's war on Ukraine. Ukraine can win this war. They just, as always, for the last 4 years and 11, but the last 4 years of the full-scale invasion, just needed the materials to do that, and we needed to stop funding Russia to be able to continue this war. Russia is hurting. The sanctions that were passed by Graham hurt Russia. Russia is not winning this war. That narrative also needs to change. The truth is Russia is not winning this war. The truth is that last week at the Kremlin, Russian oligarchs said this is enough because we're losing too much money. They disappeared. But they spoke out. People in Russia are starting to speak out against Putin. We always knew that this war would end when mothers didn't want body bags coming home anymore. Unfortunately, Russia doesn't collect its dead, so they don't even get body bags. They just lie in fields in Ukraine. However, we thought that would happen when the mothers rallied up. Unfortunately, that has not happened. But businessmen have been hurt by this, and sanctions will work. And cutting off the head of the snake will work. And cutting off his head means taking away his money. So the three things that are on the docket right now is this bill that just came out, the Senate Bill 2904, and that is past the shadow fleet sanctions because they do have shadow fleets, and just by the name of it, it means they're going around the sanctions. I will say, for 4 years, Lindsey Graham has sought to pass the Russia is a state that sponsors terrorism bill. When I did my first demonstration for Lindsey Graham people, we had 472 signatures, and we were out all day. And they said, Nadia, you're supporting Senator Graham? And I said, listen, sometimes you got to go through the devil to get to God. Whatever happens, it works, right? So he's been fighting for that. And the reason, and we should still support that, that's not necessarily the key things, but we should still support that. Blumenthal supported that bill too, by the way. It's bipartisan. Is because if we sanction Russia, we fine them. You saw Russia. It's very big. There's a lot of money there. Fines really don't matter. If Russia is a state that sponsors terrorism, we jail CEOs. It is against the law to do business with a state that sponsors terrorism. It changes the narrative tremendously. And Ubiquity would not be able to survive in California because they'd be in jail. So we still have to push that. But the shadow fleets are happening by exactly what it means. They're not on the books, they're shadows, and they're still circumventing and doing business and not getting sanctions. So that is being recognized. And I'm saying these things because this is good, because people are understanding that Russia needs to be stopped. And our bipartisan, don't make a mistake either, our bipartisan senators and congressmen don't want Russia to win. They haven't lost their minds. They don't want Russia to win. So the other two, it's been a long night. I was going to get you guys to stretch before we even started, but it's okay. Here we are. So just bear with me a little bit more, and then we'll have time to talk together. But get up and get water. It won't bother me at all. There is the Sanctioning Russia Act, which is H.R. 2548. That's House Resolution 2548. And then there's the Peace Through Strength Act Against Russia Act, which is H.R. 6856. They're both in the House. I'm going to tell you the two differences. I'm going to tell you which one we want. We'll take either one, but the one we really want, the Sanctions Russian Act sounds very good, but it requires a covered determination by the president within 15 days of enactment, with actions triggered if Russia refuses to negotiate or violates the peace agreement, which he violates every single night. So, in theory, the Sanctioning Russia Act sounds good, but in theory, it doesn't really work because it still has to go through the White House, and the White House has its last word on that. The Peace Through Strength Act, which is H.R. 6856, It imposes sanctions immediately, within 30 days, regardless of Russia's actions. There's no conditional trigger. So we don't have to prove they violated a Sunday to Sunday ceasefire against infrastructure that never happened. Maybe Sunday 2 hours, maybe, I don't know what President Trump was thinking, but I do know that every single day of the last week when he said he wasn't going to have, because it was too cold, and it would be nice if Russia stopped bombing the infrastructure, and Putin listened to him. But of course he didn't listen to him. Putin bombed every single night, and still our president had the nerve to go on public television and say, no, it worked from Sunday to Sunday. I'm not sure which Sunday to Sunday, and I'm not sure which country he's watching, but there's never been a ceasefire on Russia's part. So we would like the Peace Through Strength Act. And it's co-sponsored by 2 Republicans in Michigan. That's it. So, as you know, we have 13 representatives in Michigan, and we have 2 senators. So Moulinaire has co-sponsored this bill, and then Tom Barrett. And Tom Barrett has worked for sanctioning Russia very strongly since he's come in. So, one way to work around that is to also call those offices that have co-sponsored. So I'm telling you, these 2 people that have co-sponsored, that we worked very hard with and spoke with, to ask them to talk to their colleagues and get them to co-sponsor. I will again have to give accolades where accolades are due. I did talk to Bergman, who did talk to me, tell me to go to Moulinaire, because he might be a soft win. So he didn't have to do that, right? And I asked him to continue to speak to his colleagues. So I call Bergman every day. I ask you to call every day. There's always something you can talk about. Now, with Ukraine, every day just remind them Ukraine exists. They are our ally. They were the first people to send people to Afghanistan to support us. They were not part of NATO, as we know. They lost people fighting beside us in Afghanistan and Iraq. They were the first to support anything we have done. They signed the Budapest Memorandum, 1994, which honestly, 4 years ago, when I gave my first talk and I put that on the screen, and I just took the mic and I dropped it and I said, we're done. That's it. For those who don't know what the Budapest Memorandum is, it's when we got Ukraine to give up its nuclear armament, and Clinton got them to do it after 4 revisions because Ukraine said the wording is not strong enough. But they trusted the USA, who said, trust us. Trust me, we won't do anything wrong. Look where it's gotten. If they still had their nuclear armament, this would not be happening. That is the truth too. These are truths that are undeniable. This is why, when people have said, why won't they just sign? Ukraine doesn't have trust because since 1149, Russia has invaded Ukraine every 100 years, multiple times. Ukraine has never invaded Russia. Also a truth, undeniable. No narrative can change that. We need to continue to speak about these truths. So, yes, Ukraine would like stronger security guarantees because, yes, Ukraine was duped before. And Ukraine trusted the United States wholeheartedly. And we have let them down, and that is the truth. And so we, as Americans, do owe Ukraine everything we have to keep them alive. And I will tell you, again, this last conference, very candid. Most of the conference we go to, and even Sharon mentioned yesterday, Ukrainians are crying and thank you, thank you, thank you. And this time, Ukrainians said, I am so tired of trying to defend my life and right to exist. I don't have to defend the fact that I can exist to you. You owe me. The United States owes me. Because we signed an agreement with you. We trusted you. We are only in this position because we wanted to be allies with the West. I don't have to convince you that my children are important. Every child deserves the right to exist. And 100% Ukrainians should not, after 4 years of a full-scale invasion, have to convince us that their children are worth us fighting for. We just have to remind Washington what the truth is. And then we have to remind them, as everyone in this building is, standing for American values, what dignity, honor, and freedom, and saying the Pledge of Allegiance, and supporting our allies means, and that is what we need to continue to do. So right now, easy to get those 3 bills, just call Bergman. You can call other congressmen. They'll ask you, are you my constituent? And you can say, no, but my neighbor, lives there, or I'm in Rotary, which is what I say, which is the truth. And I have Rotary members all through Michigan, so I'd like you to hear me because this is important to all my fellow Rotarians. This is important to my family that lives in Union Pier. This is important to others. You don't just have to call your congressman here in the UP. When you see someone on this TV, Blumenthal, others, Amy Klobuchar, others who are wearing the Ukrainian pin, call their office and say thank you. Because they deserve that too, right? So we still can pick up a phone and we can tell people that are working for us in DC what we want them to do for us. And remind them that when they took an oath to uphold the Constitution, it meant supporting our allies, the Geneva Convention, and everything else that they put their hand up for. And that includes Ukraine. So, I have lots of resources here, lots of books. Someone told me to tell you they're not free books to take home. so if you'd like a book, please come see me. We are doing a book club, so there are some books that I can share. If you haven't read, I just want to give a little plug out because I was a librarian and a teacher, so I do have to do that. So.
Some of us like fiction and some of us like history. But if you haven't read
The Gates of Europe, I know I'm standing on my poster on the backside. If you haven't read The Gates of Europe yet, this is one of the best historical books on Ukraine. For 4 years we've been plugging this. I donated one to the Marquette Library, one to the Nagano Library, one to the Houghton Library. One way you can advocate for Ukraine is make sure that schools and libraries have books about Ukraine. You can ask independent bookstores to have books about Ukraine 4 years later. But you can also very easily, $25 out of your pocket, donate a book to the library that others may check out. It's a wonderful way of advocacy. Or, I know all of us are very involved in the community. Donate one of the books there, The Women of War. I think someone held it up a minute ago. Yeah, there we go, thank you. A very good book as well, Women Looking at War. She was killed in the Ukraine war. It's her memoir, and then someone finished her diaries. I always give that out as silent auction items. Another way we can advocate, right? And it's important. So there's little things you can do. Having a flag is so important. Wearing a pin is so important. Wearing Ukrainian jewelry. I don't walk around with 20 pounds on my neck every day, but I do when I go to events now because this is Ukrainian jewelry and people recognize it or they ask me about it. And I don't have to wear a vyshyvanka, which is Ukrainian traditional wear. So I do get asked about this, but you can wear amber or a piece of Ukrainian jewelry and again, advocate. There are so many ways to advocate for Ukraine. Looking at all of this art, you can advocate for Ukraine. This is the dream. Yep, this is Saturday, no problem. This is the Dream Time, and this is a fictional book, and this was written by 2,000 Meters to Andriivik, which many of you have watched on PBS now. Film through advocacy has become very important in Ukraine. One of the things that is different about this war than others is that we have cell phones, all of us, and it's live action. And some of these films are very hard to watch because they're not just films, you're watching people die. It is very hard for me, a peace activist, to watch these films, but it is very important because it gives us real time on the ground what is happening. 2,000 Meters to Andriivik is on PBS. He's also the one that did 20 Days Out of Mariupol, both Oscar-winning, both award-winning. Porcelain Wars is an excellent film that I highly recommend as well. We can do a screening here one night. because I have rights to all these movies, so if anybody wants to do a screening of the movie, we can. Again, another way to advocate, get your group together and do this. You don't really need rights right now because some of them are, you're able to live stream them, but we can do a screening and talk to the director, so that's things we can do as well. It's so important that we really, really speak about the truth of what's happening in Ukraine. And when we speak about Ukraine, we don't speak about a dying country, we speak about a living country. Because that's very important to Ukrainians too. Because they are living. That's how we started this, clapping for Ukraine, because they are surviving after 4 years. And ways that you can help, as people have helped with charities, or come to an event. I know you guys are having one on the 24th. We're having one in Houghton on the 24th as well. Rallying in public is very important as well still. Supporting charities right now is very important because the infrastructure has been hit. Putin has weaponized winter again. People are freezing. Children are eating in the dark, around the clock. Toddlers are eating their first meals in the dark. Because most places don't even have electricity, but if they do, it's 4 hours. In that 4 hours, they have to wash, clean, cook, and do everything else for the entire day. There are many, many charities that will help with that. If you want to help in a family, an individual family, I can help you with that. One of the things that we have done with Yoopers for Ukraine during this administration is done pop-up for peace programs. Because like I told you, now I have all these beautiful artists, which I ask you to look at their work afterwards. But they all have children, and that means children have schools, and schools have teachers, and I've been connected with schools and teachers. And we've been working with inclusive centers, and again, just to talk about how wonderful the Ukrainian people are, I think we can all understand what inclusive centers means, but it's working with autistic children, and they call them inclusive centers. And if you can imagine how hard it is for children that can rationalize noise and understand why they're in a siren and a bunker every day, can you imagine having noise all day long, and you cannot process loud noises anyway. So we, as Yoopers for Ukraine, have built music trauma centers, and we had one of our children who's never spoken spoke for the first time because of the equipment we sent over. So if that's something you want to help with, that's what we've been trying to do, is really focus on giving children normality as much as we can. Because children deserve to know they're not forgotten. People deserve to know they're not forgotten. And we thank you. The Ukrainians that are listening tonight, thank you. The Americans who are listening tonight and who are fighting every day in the resistance that we talked about earlier in the program tonight, thank you. Because every time we stand up for humanity, we stand up for each other. So with that, I'll take any questions, but thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Yes, Bob.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This lady, my wife,
Hello, wife. Victoria, right? Was it Victoria? Valentina. Hello, Valentina.
born in
Estonia?
Luhansk,
Oh.
yeah,
Oh.
and I met her in occupied Crimea 21 years ago.
So for those online, Bob's saying that his wife was met in occupied Crimea 21 years ago. I'm not going to make Bob come up here, so that's why I'm telling you guys online. Go ahead.
It's personal for us.
It is.
That's why we fly. And I think there's only 2 Ukrainian pilots that fly in Marquette. There should be hundreds.
There should be hundreds, exactly. And you know, it doesn't take much to do that. And I'm sure when you see the other Ukrainian flag, aren't you, Valentina, happy to see that?
Yes, and it's, I didn't mean to speak, I didn't mean, and I don't want to,
No, you don't have to.
but, it's contradicting. I'm 50-50, I'm 50 Russian, 50 Ukrainian, and believe me, 80% of people in Russia and Ukraine is mixed people. We married each other, we brothers, and it's tragedy. But I wouldn't claim like Russia is the enemy.
No.
It's a government.
It is. It's absolutely political. And I think that's a very strong clarification that Valentina made for years, because that's also been a division. This has been a divisive administration that has tried to bring division and to say, you know, that
oh gosh, well, the Ukrainians didn't like Russians speaking Russian and Russians didn't like Ukrainians speaking Russian. No, that's not true, because that's happened for decades. This is a political war, and while it's getting a little bit more difficult, I think one of my concerns at the beginning of this war was that in 80 years we didn't have global guilt anymore, or global shame at a massive level, or global hate. And this war I knew was going to bring that, and it has, unfortunately, and it'll take us generations to get rid of that again. If you're an intelligent person, you know that not all Russians hate Ukrainians, and not all Ukrainians hate Russians. We're people. And many Ukrainian families and many Russian families have intermixed, and their family, and they're torn apart now too. But the bottom line is, this war is not good for anybody. And the bottom line is, Ukraine didn't deserve this war, regardless of where you sit on the line. But one thing you can do is fly a flag. You don't even have to have I brought flags if you want one, but you can just print out a blue and yellow flag and put it in your window. That's all you have to do. It's very easy now. You don't have to make them all through the night. You can buy them overnight. I have so many now. We bought 500 from Ukraine. One thing I will tell you that, and Valentina, others will attest to this, and I didn't really get to this, but there are positives, obviously, that have come out of this, unfortunately. Innovation is necessity, and Ukraine now is one of the leading manufacturers of drones, leading in the military world. And I will tell you, for those of you that are military, I was a military trainer. One of the things that I do bring to DC, and when you talk to your military brothers and sisters, is the fact that we should be reliant upon Ukraine as our ally, because in a theater of conflict, in this theater of conflict, it's live training. And there are 3 axis of evil that have been live training in Ukraine: Korea, Iran, Russia, and there's Ukraine. There are veterans from the United States who have gone, but we don't have anybody in that theater. So while we were training Ukrainians on military weapons, it is now Ukrainians that are training the United States on those military weapons that we have never used, because combat has changed because of this war. And Ukraine and Russia have all the knowledge. And again, Russia is not our ally, but Ukraine is. So we are now dependent upon strengthening those ties, and we can gain from Ukraine, and we need to. So that is something positive that you can also speak to others about. It is not a one-way street of us giving to Ukraine. And I don't even want to get into the supplementals, but just that you know, we did not lose $160 billion in Ukraine. Most of that money came right back into the United States. PDAs are warehouses of old military equipment. We sent that, we replenish it, it gets manufactured, much of it here in Michigan. We created many, many jobs. Most of that money that we voted for in Congress to go to Ukraine stayed in the United States and created jobs. So that is a truth too. We did give money to Ukraine for government businesses to stay open because it's a conflict of war and they are our allies. So that is a truth too. The truth is there's corruption in Ukraine. That is a truth too. But Ukraine has worked very hard to end the corruption in Ukraine. And there's corruption everywhere, as we are well aware here. And thank you for that, Bob. Thank you for saying thank you. And we are working very hard every day to bring peace to this world. And that is why we fight for Ukraine too, because when we allow something like this to happen, it harms everyone. Thank you. Any other questions? All right, Dad and I are going to be here. I do want you to look at the art, hold the art. It's important that you touch art from Ukraine, because when we're vested in Ukraine, we understand what it means to be part of that humanity, and the fact that these are real people that are just working for their own goodness, right? To live free like we are, wanting to have a family, wanting to have their children grow up without war. And as you can see,
Ukraine's whimsy and joy, and that's why I bring all this, because these were all done during conflict, all of them. And they're not all sad things. They are art and light and love. And I apologize, but I know all of you know that Vladislav for the Olympics was disqualified in the skeleton race because he had on his helmet, if you don't know, please look up this story, but he had on his helmet just the pictures of fallen athletes that were killed in the war. Just the pictures, no commentary, no names, and he was disqualified from his Olympic race. But now he's been given the Medal of Freedom by Zelensky. This is the helmet that's gone around the world. Remembrance is not a violation. And so understand that, again, advocacy comes in many, many forms, and we are allowed to acknowledge those who have gone before us, and we need to stand for those who will come in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, I have, so there are pictures here and there are note cards. If you put your name on those note cards and give them to me, I will put you on our mailing list, but our mailing list is unfortunately Gmail. So don't send me anything sensitive right now. Oh yes, and thank you, Sharon. Like, what about Misha? I have gifts. I have gifts for everybody. These are coasters. Misha is a cat on the front line. Please take them for your morning coffee to remember to call Ukraine. So Misha was found on the front line in Ukraine, and she was given to her. It's not only a cat; it's an armored cat. It's an armored cat. Yes, and Andrew, the Marine, U.S. Marine that was fighting on the front line that found Misha, brought him back to Kyiv,
And my girlfriend Emily, who's also an American, saw cute little Misha and said, Misha can make us money. And we put Misha in an armored vest. Misha's 501c3 now is Misha's Angels. Misha has gained over $100,000 for this military unit. The round that the universe did on this, Andrew was shot in the heart, shot through the ear. The armor that Misha bought, Andrew saved his life. So save a cat, save a life. That's it.
Misha'sAngels.com. Save a poster